No exaggeration, this latest Boruto update changes everything. The time skip is closer than ever, and yes, I know we've all been saying that for like 3 years now. I'm not your usual host for these Boruto videos, but hopefully you don't mind me filling in. Chapter 70 opens up with silence following Shikamaru's offer to Ada in the previous chapter. Ada would confirm Shikamaru's proposition and offer to join Konoha and leave Code's side. For a brief moment, she would give Shikamaru a focused look, before abruptly, her eyes would widen as one of them transformed before him. Shikamaru was visibly shocked as his own eyes widened and sweat began to run down his face. Here, it became clear that Shikamaru truly knew nothing about Ada and the predicament he was in. Her previously revealed captivating jutsu was not all there was to fear. Code immediately began to question her, but Ada would quiet him and make it clear that she had every right to consider this offer. The mysterious Ada's unknown ability would be active as she with a blank expression stood coldly, clearly in control of the whole room. As she did this, Naruto would approach the locked room with haste, quickly reaching and attempting to enter. And this is the part that had Twitter clowning before they really knew what was going on. The insanely powerful character we all grew up watching was stuck locked out of his house like a drunk man that lost his keys. Naruto would quickly enter the pin to the door, but it was no use. The door would not open, and his own frustration with that was growing, when suddenly Ino spoke out to him from inside his head. She would explain that this was to protect him from the enemy jutsu, which was Ada's captivating capabilities and now had the entire room in heat. We would then get a look into Konoha's finances through Shikamaru asking Naruto not to destroy the lock system because the village's budget is already shrinking yearly. And when the budget is dropping, that likely means the money is going somewhere else. Although, from what we have seen of the village in the anime, I don't think Konoha's economy is failing. They seem to be doing just fine. Maybe the military budget specifically is just going through the roof and taking up funds. Americans know how it is. Shortly after this, Boruto and Sasuke would arrive rushing to the bolted door as well. Ada on the other side was aware of the new arrivals and questioned Shikamaru about it, assuming that he must have told his colleagues to lock the door to protect Naruto and the others from her ability. But now, Shikamaru had his own question. How did she know all this? Ada's transformed left eye would glare at Shikamaru and the dots would connect. This was all because of that transformed eye. And this same eye would be what later saves her and Code from coming face to face with the Grim Reaper. But before we go any further, if you haven't already, be sure to drop a like on the video and subscribe to Plot Armor with notifications on. From here, the mysterious eye's name would be revealed, as Amato's voice would call out in Shikamaru's head that it is the Senrigan. There was an error going around on Twitter where I suppose a translator made a mistake and had it sound like Shikamaru knew that this was the Senrigan, but no, this was Amato revealing that information. Amato would go on to explain that Ada can see anything that's happening anywhere in the world. Additionally, Shikamaru would learn that Ada can see past events as well, so you can't hide anything from her. And you would think that after hearing this, Shikamaru would just like soil his pants or something, which I couldn't blame him for, but no, he'd focus on the positive, which is that at the very least, Ada seems unable to hear the conversation they're having via Ino's connection. After this brief distraction, the topic would turn back to Ada siding with Konoha. She was surprised to hear that Shikamaru and Konoha did not see her as a Kara remnant and enemy. In the end though, she would agree that there was no need for hostility between her and Konoha. Shikamaru saw the opportunity and momentum swinging in his favor and hopped on it, letting her know that if she continued to help Code, she would become an enemy. As he was sweating in this tense situation and attempted to remain focused, he would tell her to think long and hard. The others in the room would just look on as the tense situation played out. And right here, I have to say, Ada's effect on Shikamaru really isn't doing much. We know it affects everyone differently, but the effect seems especially low right now, and I guess we have to say it's for the sake of the plot. Meanwhile, elsewhere in Konoha, Kawaki would still be in the medical facility we saw him in last chapter. And this next part was important to me because I was looking to see some real personality from Kawaki here. The quiet, rude, bad boy attitude was starting to feel a bit old. And here he would actually have a pretty decent conversation with Sumire. She would try to break the ice by in a way, reassuring him that the current situation was calm. Boruto was fine, and so there was nothing to worry about. Not only that, but she would try to avoid judgment, making it clear that she understood how difficult the situation must have been. They avoided eye contact a bit here as the situation was awkward. That is, until she was able to see Kawaki's karma mark and he began to open up. Kawaki would explain that it seems Amato had restored his karma mark without permission. Being of decent intelligence, Sumire was able to understand and figure out that it likely happened during the procedures that restored his forearm. Processing his current situation, Kawaki would pause for a bit, before adding to that by saying that return is something he strongly desired too. Sumire looked concerned hearing this. In his own words, Kawaki would state that without the karma, Naruto would be dead right now. With a sad look, he'd go on to state that this was the first time he was grateful to have it, from the bottom of his heart. And the next part is likely exactly what Amato had hoped for. Kawaki with conviction would add that he needs it. Sumire would here tell Kawaki that this thinking may be playing right into Amato's hands. And this next part is a bit disappointing because I would have liked to believe that Kawaki had already considered this possibility or was smart enough to hear it and quickly make sense of it. In response to Sumire's last suggestion, Kawaki would question her, and she would without confidence carry on explaining that Amato may have done all that for his own selfish purposes. We wouldn't get to see the rest of their conversation, but the next time we see Kawaki in this chapter, things get scary quickly. Back on the scene of Code's attack, we would see him continue digging into Amato's flesh in an attempt to pressure him into removing the power limiters that stop Code from becoming an unstoppable monster. Code now felt a greater sense of urgency, with Ada seemingly now in between sides. Still maintaining their hidden method of communication, Amato would cry out, "Shikamaru, I can't take much more." And Shikamaru surely remembers that Amato previously made it very clear that he is a pig in these situations. He will squeal when pressured. Shikamaru, hearing the cries of Amato now, would try to reassure him that Code would not go as far as to murder him. Reason being that without Amato, Code would never get his full power back. It wasn't exactly working though, as you can tell from the sweat and strain on Amato's face. A moment later, the focus would again turn to Ada's Senrigan. This is where the chapter falls into chaos. Up to this point, the chapter has been exciting, but that's typical Boruto these days. The second half is where it gets really good. It was Kawaki. With her eye, Ada could see him on the way to them. It was time to retreat. Shikamaru, Delta, and Amato were stunned. While the door to the room was currently sealed, Kawaki could simply use Sukuna Hikona to shrink himself and enter by way of an air vent. And in case you forgot, Sukuna Hikona is a move that was Ishiki's specialty that now belonged to Kawaki, and was an ability we saw him use in the most recent fight. And Kawaki was in fact doing just that. At great speeds, we would then see him on his way to join in on this battle. Not long ago, he had essentially beaten Code in a fight, however victory was soiled due to Daemon being used as a get out of jail free card. Code was pissed now. He was so close to full power, but out of nowhere came Kawaki, who would have the ability to shut off their exit in the same way he had during their previous conflict, using Sukuna Hikona. Things were actually even worse for Code and Ada than it had initially seemed, because the two exceptions for who Ada's powers can affect are a blood relative or an Otsutsuki. So now Shikamaru would learn that both Boruto and Kawaki could not be affected by Ada's ability. And this was definitely some interesting timing from Amato. Choosing to reveal such information clearly frustrated Shikamaru. If it wasn't already clear that Amato is pretty shady, it's about to become extremely clear. Amato would go on to say that had he revealed this information sooner, Shikamaru would have summoned them to fight here. Which is a fair assumption, and Shikamaru would make it clear that he probably would have, since that is a sound decision in this situation. But Amato would express that he can't afford to have Kawaki die. In his own words, he wouldn't let Shikamaru risk Kawaki like that. Amato would attempt to make it clear that he does understand Shikamaru and Konoha's perspective, however their thinking and actions go against what he considers best. The two were erupting into an argument when Ino interfered, attempting to stop them. Amato would call out that it's alright to let the enemy leave, as it wouldn't hurt to allow more time for Boruto and Kawaki to grow stronger. That cute back and forth would be cut off though to Amato and Shikamaru's surprise, when Code threw Amato through his claw marks that allowed for teleportation. Code himself was not happy about this and would boot Amato through the portal as he went on about how he'd rather not do this, but it could not be helped. As Code and Ada prepare to retreat and follow after Amato, Shikamaru takes a stance and activates the Shadow Possession Jutsu, ready to try and slow them down to allow for Kawaki to arrive, but even though he knew he wouldn't last long, he had to try. Like a demon, Code would simply look back and ask Shikamaru if he wants to die that badly. Shikamaru, almost trolling here, would ask Ada why not stay and meet Kawaki. Why was she so bashful? He was attempting to keep her engaged with him, but Ada would pull a boss move. Instead of dealing with him, instead of even responding to him, she would speak to Delta, who was still infatuated with her, of course. Ada would just say that she is in a bad mood and ask Delta to help. Delta would look at Shikamaru, get up, and deliver the beats. Not really, but she would charge in for an attack which he dodged. Dodging this though would drop the Shadow Possession Jutsu. Shikamaru would try reaching Delta, but to no avail, and Ada and Code would make their retreat. As they left, Ada would express her love for Delta, and Delta would express the same and ask her to visit again. Not gonna lie, the dialogue in Boruto has been really good lately, and this chapter has been no different, and this next part just adds to that. Before leaving, Code would tell Shikamaru that he was now on the retribution list, and to prepare himself for that. Shikamaru was not fazed by this, and would just tell Code to never show his face around there again. And in typical shonen manga fashion, right as they left, Kawaki would appear in the room, having made his way there thanks to Sukuna Hikona. Quickly after arriving, he would notice the exit Code had just used to escape. Kawaki didn't know Code was here, but as we'll see in a moment, he came here quickly in search of Amato. Shikamaru wouldn't waste much time and would quickly ask Kawaki to obliterate the marks that Code had used. The purpose of this was to avoid the chance of them being used as an entry for an attack in the future. Before really acknowledging that request, Kawaki would ask for Amato because he had questions for him. And here, Kawaki would show genuine concern on his face as Shikamaru replied that he didn't know and that Amato may even be dead already. On the other side of the claw mark in the snow region, Amato had arrived and was now alone with Ada, Code, Daemon, and Bug. Quickly, Code would grab him off the ground and get back to where they left off, demanding the removal of his limiters. Amato would wisely ask what would happen to him after the removal of Code's limiters, and the answer to that was, well, probably death. Amato would seemingly attempt to use the leverage Shikamaru convinced him he had just a moment ago. The fact that if he were to die in the torturing process, Code would be hopeless. The two would go back and forth without really reaching any conclusion beyond opting to not waste any more time. Amato was clearly visibly nervous as he uttered the words that would free Code. There's no dress code. The room would be filled with smoke, and we would see a transformed version of Code. Daemon would yell out white, likely revealing the color of Code's hair following his transformation as everyone looked on. His fingernails would also turn black, and with that, he'd express newfound confidence, now feeling that he can't lose to anyone. From there, we would see him approach Amato with the false promise to heal him from the earlier wounds as he readies his claws. And man, oh man, this is epic. Code has now leveled up several times over as an antagonist with his new look and confidence. I for one am very excited to see what comes next and if Amato will live or die. I've been Slice of Otaku, thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.